Hi everyone and welcome back to my channel. Now today we're gonna continue with the English opening and we're gonna take a look at the reversed Rossolimo. Now last time we've looked at the reversed dragon, which happens after the moves c4, e5, g3, knight f6, bishop to g2 and now d5. But today what we're gonna take a look at is when black puts his bishop on this b4 square. So first, black plays knight to c6, developing a knight, and we just develop our own knight to this c3 square. And here black basically has two options. He can play his bishop to c5, which we're going to take a look at in one of our next videos. But today we're going to take a look at the reverse Rossolimo with the bishop to b4. Now, what is the point of this move? The point is that black is threatening to just capture our knight and slightly weaken our pawn structure. Because if you play knight f3 here, which is also of course completely playable for white, he's going to take your knight and okay, you're going to recapture with a b pawn. You want to recapture towards the center. He slightly weakened your pawn structure here. You have doubled pawns, but this is not really better for black or anything. Because okay, this pawn is also useful, is looking at this b4 square and also the d4 square. The knight can jump here and it may also support further pushes in the center, for example with d4. Or you can also for example after castles, you can also play d3 and play it like that. It's all just fine, but I think that not allowing black to capture our knight is the best. So we're going to take a look at the move knight to d5. Now I'm not going to go through all the theory and everything because it would take too long. If you want to know all the theory, I will leave the links to Marn's books down in the description. Really great books, so I greatly recommend you if you want to play the English opening. And if you have any questions about what to play in a certain variation, just comment down below and I will answer your question. So okay, back to the opening. The point of this knight to d5 move is that you don't allow black to take on c3, and this bishop here is suddenly not doing much. And you also get a knight to a pretty nice d5 square. And yeah, from here on, black actually has three options. First one is to take on d5, which is a little bit dubious, because we're going to capture it with our pawn, and also gain a tempo on the knight. Now, many beginners would probably say, why do you capture it with a pawn? You double your pawns, you know. Why don't you capture it with a bishop? Now, the point is that when we capture it with a pawn, this pawn here in the center is actually pretty strong. And we also gain a tempo on the knight, which is very important because we get quick development. And yeah, I mean, now black has to move somewhere. And just know that he can't go to this d4 square, because you actually win a piece after the move e3, attacking the knight. And now wherever he goes, he can go here or here. If he goes to f5, you win a piece by playing queen to g4, hitting both the knight and the bishop. And if he goes there, then just queen to a4. Again, he can't protect both pieces. So this is a nice little trick. After you recapture it with a pawn, he has to go to this e7 square. Now here you just continue with quick development, knight f3, attacking the pawn and also preparing to castle. Now the idea for white here is to develop quickly and not let black stabilize quicker than him and try to use your slight disadvantage of doubled pawns. Here black basically has to protect his pawn. With d6 he just drops a piece with queen to a4, check, and then we pick the bishop. So he has to play knight to g6 here, protecting his pawn, after which one of the main ideas is shown. After castles, okay, black also castles, because okay, again d6 fails the queen to a4, right? And so he castles, and now d4. Now this is one of the main ideas. We take action in the center, and we also get rid of our doubled pawns here. Of course, if he takes, we just recapture, and we have a very nice knight on a centralized square. We also have a pawn on a central square. So this is a better position for white here. We can also follow it up with the move e4, controlling even more central squares, and this is just great for white. So yeah, this is one of the main ideas here. Now note here that e4 would fail to knight to g5, just double attacking the pawn, and he has to protect it with f5. And now after f5, this diagonal has suddenly opened, and you can use it by just playing d6. What is he going to do? You're threatening queen to b3, picking up the bishop with a check. So he has to take this pawn, and now after a check, what is he going to do? He can only move there, and after knight f7 check, he of course can't go back because you give him a smothered mate. After this, okay, check and mate. This is, by the way, a pattern that every chess player should know. So he has to just give up the exchange, after which he doesn't have any real counterplay. So yeah, e4 here is not possible, and like we said, this line is very great for white. He gets quicker development and action in the center, so that's why here knight takes d5 immediately is not so great. Now another option for black here is just retreating with the bishop to this c5 square. Now in the reverse Rossolimo, when bishop goes back to c5, you almost always play the move e3, just limiting this bishop's scope. And here I will show you a basic plan for white. He just wants to play knight to e2 and then, okay, castle, and then play d4. He wants to, of course, control the center. You always want to control the center. And this d4 move will also come with a tempo on the bishop. So yeah, you also gain time with playing d4. The bishop has to move and then it's your move again. And another plan here for white is very similar to a lot of other variations in the English opening. It's just to play a3 and b4, getting space on the queen side also and creating some play on this side of the board. Because, you know, in the English opening, you most often play on the queen side on the flank. And then you can maybe put your bishop on b2 and just have a nice game. Now here black can, for example, castle. You play knight to e2, you follow your plan of pushing d4, or maybe a3, b4. And now what is black going to do? I mean, he can of course take your knight at any point, but let's first take a look at what happens if he plays a normal move such as d6 here. You just castle, and then on the next move you're probably going to play d4. Now what is black going to play? Let's just say he develops his bishop, I don't know, somewhere. And now you can already follow up with the move d4, striking at the center. And from here the play is kind of logical, and note that black can't take here, because you just recapture, and the bishop has to move to this square here, and now, of course, bishop to g5, pinning the knight to the queen, and you're really going to weaken the opponent's king, also double these pawns, and yeah, this is not the way for black to play. So white already has some threats, and the plan of taking action in the center here with e3, knight to e2 and d4 is very powerful against bishop to c5. But let's take a look at what happens if black captures the knight before he castles. Okay, we saw bishop to c5 back, e3, and now if black captures the knight, we recapture it of course, and now you have really similar plans with white. So black would have to, you know, move his knight back because it's attacked, and after knight to e2, you're going to castle again and play d4, probably get rid of your doubled pawns. When he recaptures, you're going to take it with your knight. And like we saw a similar position, this is really nice for white. I mean, here you can also go to this f3 square, this is also totally possible, also attacking this pawn here. And yeah, I just want to give you an idea of what to do when black captures your knight on d5. Like I said, the main plan is to push d4. And an important factor, of course, when black captures your knight on d5 and you recapture, is that the c file opens here. and you could get some pressure here on the c7 pawn or just on the c file. And that's also one useful thing of these doubled pawns here. So now it's not really a weakness, but it's kind of a strength. Okay, so with that being said, the third option for black is to just castle. Now this may be the best option for black. He's just saying that, okay, you can capture my bishop if you want. Well, this is playable, but we're not going to take a look at this. Here in this position after black castles, you can also play knight f3, which is just a normal move, developing move. But what we'll see here is the line with a3. Attacking the bishop and asking him to move. Okay, if he goes there, then obviously we trap the bishop, like this. So he most probably goes to this c5 square. And after this, we said we want to push our pawns on the queen side, get some counterplay, more space. So here we just play b4. And again, the bishop is trapped after this. So yeah, I mean, if bishop went to e7, well, this e7 square is it's not the best square for the bishop. I mean, it's not doing much here. So it's probably better to put it to c5. But the thing is that we can play b4, attack the bishop, and now he can attack our rook here. But okay, we just moved to b1. And the threat here for white is of course to play e3, then black would have to move back and we would trap the bishop. So here black has to save his bishop and play something like a6. So after e3 he can move his bishop back. And now again in this reverse Rossolimo, you have similar ideas because bishop is again on this diagonal. You played e3 to limit his scope, and you're just going to play knight e2, castle, and d4. And again, of course, after knight e2, if he captures now, we just recapture. And of course, here black has to move to this e7 square. And I think this is a pretty nice position for white to play, because your plan is kind of obvious. You want a castle and then play d4. When he recaptures, you of course recapture it with your knight. And okay, what are you going to do with this bishop? You're probably going to put it on this b2 square, and it's going to be useful on this a1 h8 diagonal. And you can put your rook on the c file here, putting some pressure, and you have a playable position. So yeah, these are the three lines possible after the move knight to d5. And I hope that you understand the basic ideas and how to play the reverse Rossolimo. So as I said, if you want to build a repertoire on the English opening, I would definitely recommend you Michal Marn's books. Again, I'm going to leave the links to his books down in the description. So yeah, I hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, please share it, and I'll see you in the next video.